Hey, what's going on? Coach Luca back here with some, let's say, just knowledge drops about group training, team training. I know I've covered a bunch of different topics, and I think this is one of the important ones because a lot of times people ask, like, what do we do? How do we do it? And while that could be a week-long discussion, I wanted to share some of the philosophies on the program design part of things and the coaching design part of things and organization and things like that when it comes to team training. Like I said, team training for us means larger group training. Classes go anywhere from 10 to 30, 40 people. I mean, if you guys may have seen, we've had a charity team training class that was almost 130 people. So we'll do that too. They'll get big, and we kind of have a system that can house this, I guess, to say. But here's the point of this, okay? We do three types of training in team training as far as methods go, okay? Number one is metabolic training, which is our intervals, right? And essentially this is anaerobic conditioning. And I'll talk a little bit about why we do those things as I flip on the other side in a little bit and go into the nitty gritty of the philosophy of, the real world, like program design for large group training in the real world, right? And then we have full body density. So that's our time under tension training, right? So number three, which we won't dig into much today, is velocity. So that's hurricanes, like training for hurricanes, where we do things like, we're always doing some type of velocity training. So there's sprints, there's sleds, there's prowlers, there's some type of high force velocity included, which plugs into the R7 system that I've talked about before. But I'm gonna focus mostly on these two right here, right? And to kind of even just start with exercise selection. And obviously this is not black and white, but majority of the time, this is the philosophy around it, right? If we have this continuum, right? And imagine that the continuum, on one side of this continuum, we have metabolic, okay? And on the other side, we have I would say just time under tension, right? So TUT, time under tension. So if we want to build muscle, right? Full body muscle building strength, we're gonna do time under tension. Now, here's the kicker, okay? We do semi-private personal training, small group personal training, which I've talked about, in previous videos as well, where we can customize and individualize more and, do true strength training. Like if we're squatting and deadlifting and, improving performance, and we're doing box jumps and, 4 reps, 5 reps, 6 reps, things like that. Obviously in large group training, we can't do that necessarily to that degree, but we can still focus on time under tension and maintaining / building muscle, right? And so when we look at this continuum, and I'll take a couple of exercises just as an example to give some insight on this, right? On one side, we might have on a squat pattern, right? Squat jumps, okay? Because yes, there's some velocity, but it's more metabolic, right? I'm leaving the ground. There's no time under tension. There's more velocity. Usually it's gonna ramp up the heart rate a little bit more, right? And then the next phase would kind of, or say, if we go down the continuum, bodyweight squats. Okay, so yes, not a lot of load, right? We can go pretty damn fast, but we're staying on the ground, so there's more time and attention. From there, we'd go like the goblet squat. Okay, now whether it's a kettlebell, a dumbbell, whatever it may be, we're now adding some load through that time and attention. And then we could go double kettlebell squat, right? This is still something we use in our team training class. So as you go down the continuum, you can see how, bigger load, time and attention, controlled, and that fits more on this side of the continuum. So the metabolic fits in our metabolic sessions / classes, and more time and attention based exercises would go into full body density training sessions, right? Where we're trying to work more on building muscle. And I'll talk about rep ranges and things like that a little bit later. If we look at lunges, it might be jumping lunges or something like a lunge to hop, right? Like a lunge to hop might be here where I'm driving, I'm leaving the ground, faster pace, more velocity. Then we'd go to alternating dynamic lunges, right? So that might be a reverse alternating lunge. Then to just dynamic lunges, just one side. Then we might go to static lunges, because on a static lunge, there's constant load, right? I'm never leaving the ground. And then from there, we could go and load those up, right? We can start doing loading different parameters, right? So once again, from more metabolic to more loaded time and attention. Even something like a sprint, right? We could have a sprint, and then from there, we could have a prowler with low load and fast, right? And then from there, we could go to a sled with weights And then we could go to heavy power with march. So we're just marching slowly, like almost, we have more time and attention. Like even that, we could look at that continuum where we go from more kind of metabolic to more time and attention based and how it would fit in. And of course, we could do, 100 different exercises and kind of plug them into this continuum. And like I said, while it's not black and white, you pick more exercises from this side to go into metabolic intervals and more from this side to go into full body density, right? Somebody's doing battling ropes, right? We're doing prowler sprints, we're doing slams and throws, like that's gonna be more in the metabolic continuum. Now, kettlebell swings, for instance, great, metabolic continuum, but more if we're doing a deadlift, RDL, whatever hinge position, time and attention, right? And you can kind of see and how that more fits into this, because the idea for our group training is like, well, listen, we can't optimize. That was bound to happen. We can't optimize like everything completely individualize it like it would be in private or semi-private training. But how can we do the best possible, right, with what we have and give our clients the best in that group training setting and really think it through, right? So we believe that everybody should do some type of obviously conditioning and some type of strength training and even like some type of velocity training, because remember, power and velocity is the thing that people lose first when they age. So we want to include that in all of our training. And so that's why those things are in place, okay? Now, when we look at, okay, which exercises do we choose? Well, here's the thing. There's fundamental movement patterns, right? We have the squat, the hip hinge. We got single leg. We kind of split single leg into supported, unsupported, and then also like a level change. So level change would be a step up. And we always want to have all of those covered in our programs. Then we have push and pull, right? Mostly it's going to be usually like upper body, overhead push, overhead pull, right? Vertical push pull, horizontal push pull, right? And then we also do reach. So reach is, for us, reach is a push up, right? Anytime the scapula can move, we'll do reach. In a landmine core training press, we can reach. With cable presses, we can reach, right? So using those exercises, because most people cannot move their shoulder blades well. And then locomotion / loaded carry. So that's anything moving, whether it's farmers carries, but also like sleds, things of that nature, anything kind of like loaded conditioning based, right? So when we create the programs, and like I said, I'll give you an example of one of them on the other side, and you'll kind of see how this fits in, because we could really go deep into this, but I wanted to, I'll say, make sure that I break down kind of like this philosophy behind group training, right? We're gonna look at this main movement pattern. Now, every program, every team training session, we still try to follow R7 as much as we possibly can through it. And when we teach this in orientation, and I've done I would say a whole video on orientations and how we break it down, because we're teaching people what they're going to get into, right? We create an expectation, we teach progressions and regressions and lateralizations and what that means, so that everybody feels safe, and so that they're not just jumping into a class and going like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. What's that exercise? Ooh, I've never done a deadlift or a swing, and then you got a group of 20, 30 people, and of course, if you had 5 new people in class, that's gonna be a problem. So everybody has to go through orientation. Our orientations are an hour, 15, hour and a half, and we go in detail and explain to people, what they will be doing, kind of what to avoid, making them feel safe, teaching, like coaching up the exercises like crazy, right? So this is important. I want to outline this because nobody's just jumping into this, right? And I feel it's unethical if you do have and do that with people. Now, from there, like I said, every training session, the way that these are my kind of pointers of like things that should happen in a training session and what happens for us for sure, which is number one, prepare everything ahead of time, right? Meaning, hey, if you obviously we have programs designed, they're on the board, but like, hey, we're gonna use sandbags, we're gonna use this, we're gonna use that. Make sure everything's already organized, right? So that you're not wasting time, and that when you're starting everything, you're not late and it's not all over the place, right? So preparation, and just preparation in general, like one of the things that I did for many, many, many years, and I still do to this day, when I coach, is the night before, I'd always have a story ready on a 4x6 card. I'd have any points, anything that I'd want to convey to the group, whether it was small group or team training or my semi-privates, Like I'd have them written down on my 4x6 card. That would be my card for the day. That would be like, yo, these are the things I want to cover. Like, hey, there's specific people, maybe they're going to be in that small group tomorrow. What do I need to look out for? Like, it was almost like my cheat sheet. I got really good at like making sure that everything was on point. And now it's almost automatic, but you'll still see me if you come to Vigor, do a big team training session, like you'll see me pull 4x6 cards sometimes out, going through my stuff. Okay, cool, right? So always being prepared. When the session starts, we do our warm-ups. And so remember, our warm-ups, you know, we have release, reset, and readiness. I talked about these three things. So release is like doing the soft tissue work, lacrosse balls, sticks, anything that's gonna release tissue. Now, people learn how to do this already in our orientation. So they do this by themselves, okay? They do this by themselves. But the rest, resets, readiness, and usually reactive, will actually happen in dynamic warm-ups. Meaning, so we might do some breathing drills or positional breathing drills in dynamic warm-ups. And then from there, we're gonna start doing things like mobility drills, right? Spider-Man lunge with rotations, ankle mobility, you know, shoulder cars, all types of, you know, their shoulder blade cars. Start doing high knees and skips and moving things. And we'll also do reactive stuff. So you'll see us in classes doing things like, you know, high knees and ramping that up, and skips, and also like some accelerations. Nothing crazy and full speed sprints, but just getting people to like fire up their nervous system. Or we'll do things like, there we go again. We'll do things like pogo jumps, right? Pogo jumps, lateral hops, like firing up their nervous system and getting some of that elasticity training in. Even though it's a group training model, like we're still gonna do that. And if they're coming in 3-4 days a week, like they're gonna have good exposure to that. Their tendons are gonna start adapting to this. They're gonna actually work on this stuff, okay? So that, like, in those warm-ups will be anywhere from about, you know, usually about 10 minutes, but anywhere from 9 to 12 most of the times, right? And once we do that, then the coach will go here and do the workout explanation. Now, this is actually really, really important, okay? Like breaking down the workout, being really, really clear about this, okay? And I'm gonna go into that in a second, like with some more pointers on it. But breaking down the workout of what it is, whether it's an interval session, it's a density session, not only like what we're doing, but regressions and progressions. Hey guys, like listen, you know, here's our level 1, right? Our level 1 might be a goblet squat, okay? Our level 2 may be a goblet squat with a 3-second pause. Our level 2, our level 3 might be a double kettlebell squat, right? So depending on where you are, this is what you're gonna be using. You know, if you have some issues and the coach already talked to you in orientation, like do that exercise. Maybe that's like a static squat hold. So we have progressions, regressions, and even lateralizations, like too much to cover today, but meaning things, we always have something that a person can do that's gonna make them feel empowered in what they can do, rather than trying to make them do an exercise they cannot do because of maybe some nagging stuff that happened, health history, injury history, you know, whatever it may be that we found out before they came into class, obviously, right? But the explanation is a breakdown, and we go through everything and make it clear. There might be a focus in something. Guys, when you guys are doing this drill, here's the focus of this drill. I want you to, you know, with the band, I want you to explode out and control back, explode out and control back. So we're really coaching this up so that everybody understands what's going on, right? And obviously getting feedback. If somebody has a question, this is where we cover it, right? No, notice I wrote here progressions, regressions, and lateralizations, okay? So from there, we break the group up, and like I said, this is very important. The coach having a clear voice, right? I'm gonna go to that in a second too. Having a clear voice, control of the room, and being like, even like I said, making sure that everybody's listening, which is why it's so important to work on things like communication skills, tone of voice, clarity. You're presenting, right? It's a show. Like think about that, right? This is like, to me, like group training is an art, like team training is an art, coaching is an art. And there's different components you have to work on to become the absolute best at it. Storytelling, presenting, tonality. Like, I mean, I've had a voice coach and continue to go back to some of the things. I've, you know, studied Roger Love, the number 1 voice coach in the world. Like always thinking about, okay, how can I improve this team training session? Whether it's like, hey, I'm not speaking loud enough and not being able to do it for an hour straight without losing my voice. And trust me, anybody that's done a lot of group training, you know how it is when you lose your voice, okay? So from there, like I wrote coach, okay? Now I'm gonna, man, like here's the thing, okay, a lot of group training programs, there's no coaching. So I had to crank up the music and just go. This seems to be the theme of today, is like me dropping this thing, right? Obviously, I'm the fidgeter. You know that fidget device? I'm gonna put an affiliate link for it if you want to buy that like fidgeter thing that I need. Like, you can't, just ramping up the music. It's like, all right, cool, there's great music, there's energy, but that doesn't mean there's coaching, right? Or just pushing hard, right? Like, let's go, right? While, like I said, energy is important, but that still doesn't mean that there's coaching. And remember, people need coaching, right? We'll dig into like how coaching looks like in a team, like larger group team training setting. But nonetheless, like it's very, very, very important, right? You can't get by, first of all, it's unethical not to coach people to do things the right way and to make sure that you're adjusting for we might have like a high-level college like athlete in class with somebody that's like 65 and still kicking butt, but they might be doing different things, different I would say intensities, and that's for you to do. It's for you to also correct them, which I'll get to in a second. So coach. You can never get too good at this, guys. Never get too good at this, okay? And then from there, as we get done with the session, like from there we usually have a finisher, and a finisher is kind of like one of those things that it's more physical, camaraderie building and mental than it is like the actual like, hey, there's a science of like doing a 3 to 5 minute finisher that's going to get you so much better results, right? It's almost overcoming your inner editor. I always talk about this, but we do that. From there, there's the majority of the time there's some storytelling. I'll finish my small groups with either some type of education or a story that connects something for them, right? Like we're putting seeds in their mind to be able to develop a belief system that like takes them where they want to go, right? Because remember, mindset is such a big part. We talked about those 4 components that we teach at Vigor, right? Training, nutrition, mindset, recovery, right? And mindset is one of them. Every session, we're trying to instill a powerful mindset. We're trying to instill, I would say, reframing into the game, right? So that's what we do with the storytelling. And then we bring in the huddle, right? We bring in the huddle. It's like we got to chant, whether it's like Team 1-3, Rise as One. We might family. It's going to be one of our core values that we're usually going to drill. So that becomes kind of a system. Now here's some important points right here as we go back to the training of the group. Okay, room control. Now here's the thing that I'm going to bring up. How can you get good at something if you haven't practiced it deliberately, right? Meaning, hey, look, if you go in and shoot a basketball and you shoot it in a wacky way and you never really get good at it, well, then you're just getting good at what you've been doing, which is shooting it in a wacky way. When the game time comes, like you're going to get blocked and you're not going to score a lot of points and make buckets, right? But if you practice the skill and the art of shooting the basketball the right way, keeping the elbow in, finishing with the last 2 fingers, looking at the middle rim. Obviously, I'm being Luka, the basketball player, giving you this stuff. But the point of it is that like you become great at it and then you practice it deliberately, right? It's the same thing when it comes to group training. Like it's an art. So having room control. There's many people that will just stand in the same place, right? You got to move around the room and control the room and be everywhere at basically throughout the training session, and have people feel like they're getting coached individually, even in large classes. So for Thanksgiving, we had 128 people here. My goal has always been in a coaching session is to coach every single person individually, and I coached 128 people through that hour training session, right? Absolutely, because that is like what I've learned over the last 14 years doing team training in some format or another one. And so it's also coach each person individually, say their name at least 2 to 3 times. I probably didn't hit that with 128 people, but I guarantee you, like I got everybody at least one time. So that's part of room control, and we'll come back to that with some details in here, okay? Clear voice, clear explanations, right? Meaning, first of all, give you an example, okay? Putting somebody in a position that's like, all right, guys, so we're gonna go here and we're gonna do, like, that's not for group training, you have to have a clear, and I don't want to even say loud voice, because you can be loud all the time, and that's still not right? You actually don't want to necessarily do that, but a clear voice and clear explanation so that people know exactly what to do, how to do it, right? They feel safe, they don't feel embarrassed about like, man, I don't know what I'm doing, right? That's on you. And so, I pointed this arrow with the coaching part of it, right? So there's this philosophy, and I probably learned that from Alan a long time ago, is that energy levels. So hear me out for a second. I'm going to connect all the dots here. Don't worry about it. I'm going to connect the dots, okay? So imagine that somebody comes in on a scale of 1 to 10, and they're a 2, right? They're kind of like, man, they've had a rough day. You don't know what they've been going through. But you're the 10 coach all the time. Hey man, what's up, Mary? Yo, let's do, right? Like that's gonna be, like that's gonna freak, that's too much. Like it's gonna freak them out, right? It's too much energy. So you always wanna bring people up about 2 notches, maybe 3. So you take them from a 2 to a 4, 2 to a 5, okay? That's how you control energy. Now if somebody's a 10, sometimes you might have to bring them now 2 to 3 notches, right? To like calm them down. That's why we do, like we have our release and reset, which is in our R7, which brings down that nervous system, okay? But energy, like if energy is always high all the time, it's actually not a great training session, okay? So think about like the warm-up. Like you come in, you start do the breathing drills, people get a little more relaxed, and then you ramp it up. You do single leg joint movements, and you do multi-joint dynamic warm-up mobility exercises, and then you get them up and you get them moving, and now they're doing high knees, like you're ramping up that energy. It's like a story, like we're ramping it up, right? Then you bring it down a little bit as you explain stuff, and then you crank it, boom, and it goes back up during the hard training. And then you got your breaks, right? Maybe it's a density, there's 2 density blocks, and there's like a 3-minute break in between, or 4-minute break in between. And in that time, you bring it back down, you bring the music back down. And now you're talking like, all right guys, breathe everything out. Let's bring our heart rates down, walk around. I want to tell you a couple of things, like focus on this. Like right now you're bringing that down again. And then the next one ramps up and you're bringing it back up again, right? You peak, and then the finisher is like a 10. And then you come back down and you tell a story. You wrap it all together so that training session makes a lot more emotionally to them than just like, you know, getting smashed into the ground. Like that's not the point, right? They want to take more from it than that. And then you kind of bring it into the huddle. Like, so it's like this wave and this roller coaster. And semi-private training should also have that, but it's a little bit different. Group training, people want the energy, but you're still taking them on a journey, right? So I wanted to explain that because there's, you know, obviously we can go deeper into this whole philosophy because there's a lot behind it, but it's very, very important to understand this, okay? Because many times somebody might think like, man, I just gotta be so amped up all the time and I'm at a 10 and nonstop. No, you have to be on point all the time, but that doesn't mean that you're making the energy a 10, right? So thinking about that a little bit. Safety is huge, right? Everybody feels safe. Now, a lot of that comes from coming back to this orientation. So they have an expectation, they know what they're coming into, they know what to expect, right? They've already done a mini workout in orientation, so they'll know what's going on. And also go like, hey, listen, if you feel anything, tell the coach if this is going on, like, right? And also like, we'll know when new people are coming in class, so instantly the coach can come up like, hey, what's going on? It's your first time, awesome. Like, just told me that you're coming today. So you want to, like, all those things make a person feel safe. But then also exercises, right? When you do the explanations and saying, hey guys, listen, you know, and this is part of the thing, there's no ego here. You're working against yourself. Like, use the energy and inspiration, but move at your own pace. If you're doing more than you did last week, you're already succeeding, you're winning, okay? Don't try to do something that right now, you're not at that fitness level. But that's okay, you know, because that's gonna like put you now into that comparison zone. Like, oh my God, that person's so fit, so I'm gonna go harder, right? That's up to you to explain the philosophies of how to make them get the most out of that workout session, right? And just in general, in training, right? Because we want to progress them in a safe, like, hey, they're gonna work hard, but it's gonna be safe, right? This is very important. Safety is an important word. Names, right? Touch points, individual coaching. Now, these two go together right here. Okay, this is really big. So saying everybody's name, at least, like I would say minimum once, but like I would say 3 times throughout that training session, in small group team training, whatever it is. And then there's something called general specific coaching. Now, like to me, this is a whole nother art here. So if I'm walking around a group training session, general coaching are things like keep a tall spine, right? Hey, imagine somebody's pulling you by the crown of your head, tall spine, engage core like Van Damme's about to kick you in the stomach, right? Now, and that might be funny or whatnot, but the point of it is, think about exercises. A push-up, do you need a tall spine? Yes. A TRX row, tall spine. What about goblet squat? Tall spine. What about deadlift? Tall spine. It's a general cue that anybody and everybody can actually take in, and it feels like they're getting coached, even if it's a class of 40 people, right? It's a general, so you get very good at like having a toolbox of general cues. If you're holding on to something, crush it, engage it, right? So same thing, if somebody's holding on to a TRX, they're crushing it. If they got a goblet squat, they're crushing it. They got dumbbells for RDO, they're crushing it, right? Once again, that goes into it. Okay, now there's like semi-general, where it's like if they're standing, if they're doing a squat, deadlift, lunge, and saying feel your whole foot, right? Which is one of our cues to keep the foot under the pelvis, under the ribcage. Feel your whole foot, outline your foot into the ground, okay? Another general cue for anybody that's standing. So now we have this whole toolbox of general cues, and we'll say 2 to 3 general cues. Make sure that you got a tall spine. Somebody's pulling you by the crown of your head. Pack that chin, right? Keep the tennis ball and like grab it under your chin. Same thing, general cue, whatever you're doing, we want that in most situations, right? And then the specific comes in where I'm like, hey Susie, drop that back, the left leg a little bit further back. Great job. Or like, hey, I'm gonna block your knee. It's gonna make you push your hips back, right? I'm gonna go up to like, Susie, I'm gonna block your knee. And she's gonna go, instead of pushing knees forward, she's gonna drive her hips back in her deadlift. I'm gonna keep that knee there. I'm like, push the ground away. Great job on pushing your hips back, Susie. Boom, specific. And I just took and reinforced the positive, specific thing that she did. Boom, and I'm back at it, and I'm moving around, right? So this is like I said, the science of it. Like now, if you're doing a team training session right, like man, you should be on fire and you should be tired, exhausted almost afterwards, positively exhausted, right? And so think about this, coach is walking around and in loud general instructions, he's going into and being very clear, general specific. So I'm moving around the room, right? Surveying the entire space, right? From point to point, person to person. So, I mean, we have a pretty big gym now. If you're smaller, this is a lot easier, but I'm moving around. I'm here, I'm there, I'm right. And of course, if there's like members that have been there for a long time, and there's 2 members here that are new, I'm gonna spend some more time there. But I'm gonna be loud on my general points and cues, right? And be more specific with them and reinforcing them, making them feel safe and successful. And then boom, I'm moving around again, right? And the thing is, you can be individual. Somebody's been around for a long time. This is another thing. Why I might have somebody that's a former athlete, go like, Jay, get your shit together, push that ground away, right? And then I'm gonna go over here, and it's somebody maybe a little bit older, a little bit more, and I'm gonna be like, hey, great job here. Like, I'm gonna change my tone of voice, right? Now, so that means that even in a group setting of 25, 30 people, I can individualize and make everybody feel like they're being coached, one-on-one, right? That was one of the, I would say, big things at the garage that people would say, hey, listen, there's 30 people in the class, Luca's everywhere. What the hell's going on? Like, we don't understand. It's like he's multiplying himself. But that's what it would be. They'll be like always moving around and coaching people. And like it can be done. It's just harder. It's just harder. You gotta be dedicated to that. Okay? Coach everyone, right? Coach everyone. And the thing is, like this is a point, but it's important, is getting people to actually take stuff and put it back and making them feel part of a tribe so they're involved in it. Seems like a little thing, but you'll see like at Vigor, it'll be a big class, be like, all right guys, putting the weights away, I put the KBs back, people are just, right? It's like teamwork. Okay, so that's an important thing. And like I said, this, you know, I'm sharing a lot of these videos, you know, for free because I want to make sure that coaches take this in and that people know what they're looking for too. In great coaching in groups, because I feel like it's become like, well, it's large groups, so, well, you know, it doesn't matter. And it's like, no, it doesn't matter if you don't make it matter, right? So these are very, very important points, and you could dive deep into these, right? And so a little note on, once again, right, like every one of these points kind of has like the Morpheus, like take the blue or the red pill, right? And you can go deeper into the matrix. And trust me, we'll go deeper into the matrix. That's why I'm gonna put a course together on like group training. But the point of it is like I want to like make some points here to like help understand these bigger concepts and give some value. And so people will go like, okay, well, how do you design like program design for team training, right? For group, for large group training. Well, this is just some questions that we always go to when it comes to program design, period, right? So where do we want to go? It's a GPS, right? If I'm talking to a client, I'm like, okay, where does this person want to go? That's the destination. It's our point B. I'm plugging into the GPS. I want to go to Bali, right? Boop, GPS. Cool. How long do we have to get there? It depends. But let's say I'm, you know, currently I'm training a very high level, I would say, Major League Baseball player, pitcher. Off season, right? He's got this off season. We have a time frame. We can reverse engineer. And From there, but where are we starting at? What's point A? Now, point A is like everything from movement assessments, nutrition, all these different things. But when it comes to group training, it's a lot more general. And I'll answer that question in a second, right? And then we're gonna create the map, right? Create the map, that's the program, that's the path right here. All right, we're gonna check the clock when we create that program. Like, hey, listen, are we on track? Are we on the right page? Are we going in the right direction? Right? Like, that's why you create a program and you adjust the program so that we can get to the right place. And then plan the next destination, right? So we get to the thing, then we go like, hey, we get to mountain A, now we're gonna go to mountain B. Now with group training, we just have to go like, we look at group training and say, well, what do people, that it's our most affordable program, but we wanna give them the best possible. So majority of people that do our group training, well, they're looking for fat loss. We're definitely like very, very, very interested in making sure that we get quality movement all the time. I don't care if you're tired or not. Like, quality movement actually precedes intensity all day long, right? We love intensity at the right time, but only when the quality movement is there. So this is important. Okay, and then general fitness health, right? I want you to move well, right? I want you to maintain some muscle, like we want you to be strong, at least to a general level, but most people are coming for a body kind of recomposition transformation, right? So we're looking at our group training model. That's why it's a mix of anaerobic conditioning, right? So if I go back here, we know that this is very, very effective. Oops. Yep, that's what I do, break stuff. Anaerobic conditioning. We know that this is very effective with fat loss, but we also know that like having as much muscle that we can and definitely not losing it is very important when it comes to fat loss, because that's what revs metabolism. Now, somebody might say, this is stuff that we can go deeper because we have a whole structure of, we don't want to make sure that anybody's burnt out. So if you're doing 5 days a week, 6 days a week of high intensity interval training, no bueno, right? Like most people can't handle that. They're actually going to hit a wall. So we teach when we sit down with people, like, hey, this is what's going to be the best thing for you. And hey, some days you're not going to come in and do high intensity interval training. Maybe you're just going to go for a walk, or you're going to do mobility circuits with low heart rate monitoring, right? Like that's why we're big fans of Joel's BioForce course. Heart rate monitors, man, like I would love if everybody wore them, because we can then manipulate, I would say, what they do as far as intensities go, right? So this is important to understand, because yes, absolutely. If somebody is starting to train, it's better than if you're not training. But we as coaches and gym owners, as specialists in this field, have to have the ethics to structure these things and make them smart for people so that they get the best results. They can have longevity and durability. They can have, what Steve Calargo says, ACE. I love this analogy, right? We want to have adherence, we want to have consistency, and we want to have effort, right? And if somebody can do something for 8 weeks, that's not ACE. Can they do it for the next year or years? Like that's ACE. And can I be adherent with it? Same thing with nutrition, right? Can I be adherent with it? Can I be consistent with it? Can I put my full effort into it? So I would say they call it ACE analogy. And like I said, Steve brought that up. And so that's how we look at group training, right? And usually, we're alternating like interval session, density session, interval session, density session. Like throughout the week, we have different scheduled ones. Ideally, 2 and 2 is great, but like there is no golden rule, because for somebody it might be 2 and 1, right? Like, hey, can we get them in 3 times a week? Can we get them in 4 times a week? Excellent, right? That's our thought process. Everybody's going to be different. And remember, this is ongoing. When we say, well, how long do we have? Well, here's the thing. Like a lot of people want to make this their lifestyle, so they want to get to a goal, but they want to maintain that goal. So the way that we program is really think about undulating programming. Now, I'm going to spend a little bit more time on the density part of it, but I'll touch on the interval part as well. But let's look at like the things that we're looking at, some of the things that we're looking at in program design, beyond, I would say, the movement patterns that I just showed. Things like compound exercises, like they're the big bang, like we want them to be compound, triplanar. Doesn't mean that we don't do stuff like tricep snap downs and curls, because listen, I like doing gun training too, right? So we do plug that in, but the majority of the work is compound exercises, triplanar, big bang for your buck. Squats, deadlift, presses, rows, right? Like things of that nature, single leg work, lunges, right? A lot of that is in that frame, but we change it up a lot enough to where it never gets boring, that's for sure, right? And then the thing is, we look at the main issue. So this is really important, okay? This is really important. We're taking main issues into account when building programs. So I'll give you some examples, okay? Most people need to work more on their posterior chain, hamstrings and glutes. So there's gonna be a good chunk of that, okay? Most people need more, I would say, rowing upper backward. But not just that, they also need proper form on those. So this is a topic that can go deeper, but we're definitely doing more, I would say, rowing than we are pushing, okay? But we do a lot of reach work also. So like if we put all these points in there, like that's how we design programs. We don't do a ton of overhead pressing. We just don't, not because we feel overhead pressing is bad, but most people don't have the prerequisite, right, to do an overhead weighted press, like barbell military press, dumbbell presses. We do them, but like we have a progression regression system, and we have a test in our assessment, which is if you can't pass the overhead flexion test against the wall, we have a specific test, then you're not going to be doing loaded overhead pressing, right? It's that simple. And majority, like I said, because we're taking into account things like most populations now sitting, we're very sedentary, tight hip flexors, glutes aren't working, core's turned off, right? So we program with those things in mind for the general programs, right? But we put a lot of that stuff in there. So we actually kind of do individualize it, right? We're thinking about, like in warm-ups, we're making sure that people have control, mobility of their joints. We're doing, FRC cars work. I'm obviously speeding this stuff up, but right, making sure we have mobility classes. That's one of the things that I didn't actually, you know what? Like I gotta like slide back around and go like, what the hell am I doing? So we, when we look at team training, well, there you go, right? So we have pure mobility classes throughout the week, okay? Which are somewhat like, you'd think like they fall into lower intensity because they're recovery based, but we work on joint health, joint control, not just mobility, but stability, right? Think of it as joint health. So we use a lot of the FRC system. We use CARs, which are controlled articular rotations. We use pails and rails and end range lift-offs and end range ISOs and things like that, right? So we have a lot of methods that we will use this stuff with, and we do a bunch of PRI and cool stuff. But what it does is it helps people do better with all of this, get rid of nagging pains, improve their posture. But this is also here because, and so we have literally classes throughout the week, because what it does is it helps with this main issues that people are dealing with, so when they come to class, they can actually do the things better, okay? But that's how we program, we look at that, okay? We superset a lot of upper lower because, so imagine, right? If we may be doing for instance, a kettlebell goblet squat, superset it with a push-up, or a deadlift superset it with a row. Actually, we probably flip those because they're grip dominant. But like a lower body rests while upper body does work. So we can load, right, and go hard, but now like metabolically, we're gonna be out of breath. So it's gonna be anaerobic, right? Because even like I said, the strength training in this case is anaerobic when we do it in groups. But now we can load one muscle, the other one is resting, right? So we take those things into account. I'll give you an example. Like, would it be smart to do a super heavy deadlift and then, a walk, a kettlebell farmer's walk, and then a row? Like, those are 3 grip dominant exercises. You're gonna smoke the grip. But if you did, 3 leg exercises in a row, that might not be the best for a group setting. Now, it comes into play sometimes. This is more than we can cover here, but the point of it is, like, you want to think these things out. The sequencing of exercises, the pairing of exercises, right? Very, very, very important things that, like, once again, matrix build, we can go deeper into that. But then, like I said, you got to build it into a lot of time frame. So a lot of time frame meaning, like, we have 45 minutes for our team training sessions, majority of them, right? So we build everything around that time frame. And so, okay, people say, well, how long are the intervals? Well, it's got to fit in there, right? How long are the density sessions? The actual work periods are going to be anywhere from like 18 to 26 minutes long for us. And then they undulate, meaning like we can't always do the hardest workouts, right? So we undulate them throughout the weeks. Like one workout's really hard, there's more volume, one's like medium, one's a little bit lighter, and then it does that again. Because we can do that throughout the year nonstop, right? And same thing with intervals, right? Sometimes there's going to be more sets, sometimes it's going to be less, but we have to put in a lot of time frame. Right? And like, while I'm gonna focus a little bit more on the density part today, what do we do? Like, think about interval training. 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. 45 seconds on, 15 seconds off. 15 seconds off, 45 seconds off. 15 on, 45 on, right? So we undulate those, and like I said, more than we can explain here. but we, like a lot of times what we like to do is actually undulate throughout the training session so that we'll have a really hard set, like 45 seconds, or 60 on, 15 off, but then do something like 20 on, 40 off. Like, so we basically are undulating within the training session of those intensities. Okay, but what I want to finish off with here is, like I just mentioned, this undulating part of it, right? Because like I said, people can join whenever, right? So which means that we have to have a program design that is ever always going and evolving, and like it works. Everybody can fit into it, but it's still smart in a way that it progresses. Okay, so people are still progressing their intensity or their loads, right? And we're teaching all that stuff within the system. But let's look at like our density sets as far as like the time under tension stuff. Now, we're never gonna go crazy heavy because it's a group class and it's still anaerobic and a little bit higher intensity. So we keep the reps between 8 to 15. Doesn't mean that we never go over that, but this is kind of like the general rule. Now, if we were doing I would say a program for, like, remember, you can undulate monthly, weekly, or even daily, right? So I gave a couple of examples here. Imagine that like 1 month, right, you had 15 reps in the density sessions. Or better, weekly, like you had 15 one week, 10 another week, 12 another week, and week 4 would be 8. See what I'm saying? Like different loads within those density sessions. Now you could undulate them, and which is what we do quite a bit of, is actually in our programs, is workout 1 15, workout 2 10 reps, workout 3 is 12 reps, workout 4 is 8 reps, right? And that way it constantly cycles through, right? So the volume cycles, the intensity cycles, because 8 reps are more intense of a load than 15, okay? So you're cycling intensity, you're cycling volume, and then individually you tell people about frequency. Like somebody that's just getting started, they shouldn't be training 5 days a week. They'll have plenty of results with doing 2 to 3 sessions a week and a mobility session, right? For recovery and improving joint health, or maybe they can even do 2 of those, okay? And so you can kind of see the philosophy behind that a little bit, right? We talked about time and attention, the choosing of exercises and density sets. And then like, here's just a sample workout. Look, we have there's so many ways that you can do this, but this is an example, okay? So, density session. 4 exercises here in one group and 4 exercises in another one. A lot of times we'll actually break the groups up into 4 groups, 5 groups, right? With shorter density sets, but this is a great example here, okay? So a core trainer press, and that might be a half kneeling, where we're training reach, right? Then we have a sandbag squat here, TRX row with a pull, and then we have a kettlebell single leg RDL, right? And this would go for 10 minutes, doing 15 reps of each. And the thing is, people would go at their pace and get as much volume in that time frame that they can, right? The next time around where they do this, they're trying to beat their volume, okay? And then they'd have a 4-minute break, 3-minute break. They'd have a break, they'll have second group, right? Farmer's walk, push up, staggered stance row, because now we can actually still get some of that that single leg stance, and then a step up, okay? Same thing, another 10 minutes. You can see, so that's 20 minutes of full work. And with the warm-ups, plus the break in between, you're hitting that 45 minutes, right? We're reverse engineering, we're talking about a lot of time frame. Okay, so that would be your time and attention. Like all these exercises have time and attention built in. Now, if it was an interval session, that might be different, because the sandbag squat, first of all, we do interval times, but the sandbag squat might be a squat jump. TRX roll might be an explosive band roll, right? Core trainer press, hey, that might be a wall med ball throw, right? Kettlebell single leg RDL, we might do anterior switch lunges, right? I mean, I'm going like off of my kind of like exercise library in my head, but like making the quick switches here. Instead of farmer's walk, we'd have some other locomotion where it'd be like lateral slides or maybe shuttle sprints where we don't really reach a huge speed. Push-ups, faster paced tempo, staggered stance rows. Maybe we're doing rotational Dynaball slams. Step-ups, we're just doing switch step-ups, right? And so that's a really quick switch, and we put that into a circuit that would have timed intervals, okay? Once again, it's the higher level principles and philosophies of this that to help you understand like how to build out like group training sessions that make sense, right? It's not just like, oh, let's just put some stuff together and it's whatever. They actually make sense and they get results, and they have a progressive kind of way of helping people change, because there is a system in how they're increasing intensity and they're getting better, and they can actually see it, right? So just like I said, this is, I'm sure Tyler was like, that is way over 25 minutes. I'm pretty sure that it is. With the countdown timer next time. But here's the thing, like this kind of gives you some insight on a team training model. And while, like I said, each one of these can go deeper and deeper and deeper. And I do want to make sure that it's understood, like for two reasons. If you're a coach that you're like, man, like how do I improve team training, group training? And if you're, if you're training in these models, to have a good like insight of like maybe what you should be looking for, because I feel it's important. I take it very, very, I don't take myself very seriously, but we take, I would say coaching and training very, very, very seriously because I believe this is, we want to give our clients the best. We want to make sure that, if we're sharing things with the industry that they're great and that everybody can take from that and make things better. So with that said, Coach Luca, drop in some knowledge on group training, on team training. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please let me know. Drop questions. What else you want to see? Because like I said, I try to do content on a regular basis to help you out. And I will see you next time. Peace.